Got out of the truck and I'm like, hey, Richie, it's not my fault. You told me to do it. And he goes, I know. We'll never do that again.
Hey, we're back with the Childress brothers. We're still talking a little bit of history of their history of monster trucks. On the last episode, Jason was telling us how he got his start with Fred Shafer and the Dodge sponsored Barefoot at the time. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So when I was at the event, and it was really funny because Richie Shafer, I don't know if you did events with him. He's an awesome dude. You know, he's just great to work with. He came to me and he's like, hey, I really need you to do some donuts. And I'm in Scott's truck and I'm like, dude, there's no room between the pulling track and the bleachers to do donuts. Like
Scott's or Fred's?
Scott's truck.
Okay.
And I'm like, there's just not enough room. And he's like, no, you can do it. You can do it. There's plenty. I'm like, I am going to need you to write off that if I hit the building, it's not my fault. And he's like, don't worry about it. We're fine. So I went over and started to do a donut. As soon as I did, truck just would get by the dirt grab. So I tried it one more time and smacked the bleachers. So I was like, well, he told me to do them, so I'm going to go to the other side. Hit both sides of the bleachers. Oh, no. Got out of the truck and I'm like, hey, Richie, it's not my fault. You told me to do it. And he goes, I know. We'll never do that again. And then Fred offered me the job to go to work for him. So it was a full-time ride where Scott's wasn't. It was when he had chose book, I could drive for Scott. So I took that, wound up being able to move back up to St. Louis. And I got to test the Barefoot truck for the first time out in the backyard. Fred actually had a Pinda style starting line set up at his house. Okay. So I got to make a couple passes there. Do believe the first event I did with him, it blew the motor. So that was a bad deal. So a bad way to start it out, which, so blew the motor. And it was something to do with how the motor got built because it was a fresh motor. So they figured out what happened. They put the wrong parts in the wrong engine because they built a Brad Anderson and a Keith Black at the same time and mixed up a couple parts. So it was a bad thing. But I got to drive that truck. I drove his, what they called number one at the time, which was a front four-link truck. And then I drove number two, which is a belly truck, which that truck was phenomenal. When I drove it, the only thing it needed was a front sway bar. Kept telling Fred that, and he's like, it's good. Don't worry about it. It's great. You can never roll this truck over. I rolled it over. But that led to, from that, when I left Fred's, I was married, looking to have kids, not wanting to be gone all the time, but then Feld SRO at the time offered me a job with them. I went up and talked to them about moving to Chicago and realized that they were crazy. They didn't want to pay but like $600 a month or a week. And rent was $1,200 a month. I'm like, so I worked for 2 weeks just to pay my rent. Nope, I'm out. Yeah. But then that led to us starting the Mustang shop. And
so let's get into that a little bit. About what year was this that you started the Mustang business? And that's been very successful for you.
Yeah, we're just over 20 years doing it.
99 is when it actually started.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. Basically, the last few years that I worked at Bigfoot, I had taken over the body shop because I had gotten married, so I didn't think being on the road was the right thing to do. So I pulled off and took over the body shop, and about this time is when SRO started buying all the promoters up and becoming this big conglomeration. And I really didn't know how much longer the whole thing was going to last. I kind of thought that was going to be the beginning of the end. Bigfoot wasn't working for those guys, still don't, which I think is a shame, as I think the fans would really, really enjoy seeing Bigfoot and Gravedigger and those guys run together. Yeah. I wish at some point they could get back together and do it for the fans, if nothing else. So I kind of saw the writing on the wall, knew there wasn't a whole lot of room for me to progress through the ranks at Bigfoot. They did offer me a seat back, and I just thought, it's time to move on. So I went to work for a guy who owned a Mustang restoration shop, and he was thinking about selling the business. And I told him, well, I'll come out and I'll help you get caught up with your body work, but I need you to show me the ins and outs of the business, and then maybe we can talk about buying it. That never really happened, and so I just went out on my own and started the shop. And we originally wanted it to just be Mustangs, but at the time we weren't getting enough work there, so I ended up partnering with a guy that used to work at Bigfoot with me. His name's Randy Langer, and the three of us kind of went in and just opened up a shop that just kind of did any kind of restoration, paint work and stuff like that. And we did that for a few years, and then really realized that we really, our hearts and souls were into Mustangs, and that's where we wanted to be, and we didn't want to work on Chevy hot rods and stuff like that. So,
which really the car that led us to that is a guy had us do a 40 Chevy and wanted a 350 Chevy in it. And every Chevy guy will tell you a 350 Chevy is a 350 Chevy. They're all the same. Just ask them. That is false. There's 3 different water pumps. There's all these different setups. There's all this different crap that they keep telling you is not true. We spent months trying to figure out water pump, like front runner systems for that engine. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. You know, this is, and when we were done with that car, me and him both were like, I never, ever, ever, ever want to see another 350 Chevy in my life. But yeah, it wound up in doing that. Then I got a call from Mike Wales asking if we were interested to help them. They needed crew guys. And at the time, business was kind of a little bit slow in the winter months. So it was like, what are you guys thinking? They told us what we'd be doing, and we would basically crew a truck, take it to from show to show, work on it out of our shop. They'd pay us for our shop usage. They'd pay us all that stuff. And at the time, the money was pretty decent. So that's what got us back into going out and doing that, which we stayed together on that road for not even a month, 2 months at the most. And
I think about a month and a half.
Yeah. And I get a call and says, all right, so here's what we need you to do. We need you to get into a cab, go to the airport, get on a plane, ticket to be there in your name, and we need you to fly to Grand Rapids, Michigan. I'm like, why? We have a guy that's not able to drive. We need you to drive. Okay. So I haven't driven in several months, or years, I mean, so it was like, okay. So I got into a truck called Radical Rescue. And it was a truck partner with Rod Schmidt with the Gravedigger truck. So it was actually a fun truck to drive because I had no pressure. No one expected me to do anything. It was just jump in that truck and drive. Okay. So I did. I went out there, and, you know, after being out of a truck for a while, it only takes a couple hits to go, oh yeah, this is fun. So that led in. I finished that year out in that truck. They finished out.
I was crewing for Bobby Z in that Demolition Man truck, and then the weekends they weren't doing the stunt, we would put the Vet King body on it, and George Bellman, yeah, he was just getting started, so he was driving. And so anyway, the next year they offered us both rides. He got Digger 14, and I got the newest truck in the fleet, which was High Roller, that Ron Nelson had driven. So we did a season like that. The only thing that I tore up on my truck was I had a battery go bad. I replaced one battery all season, and was typically us in the finals racing. Most of the time I came out on top in the racing. He would usually win freestyle, which how are you going to be Digger? But I wasn't all that satisfied with the trucks, and we got a bunch of crap because we didn't tear enough stuff up.
Yeah.
He didn't roll over.
So I was going to say, something's not right if you're not out there destroying it.
Yeah,
I destroyed the truck.
We had to work on them.
I destroyed the Digger truck one time, and there's all kinds of pictures on the internet of it. We were up in New York, first show in Digger truck, and Mike Wales was there with me. And me and Mike at that time, we're friends still. We're buddies. And he said, so what are you going to do? And I said, well, it's concrete show. I'm going to take my onions. The front tires are completely smooth on the Digger truck that I have. I said, I'm going to put them on the back. They're going to become a drag slick. And I said, I'm going to put my cleated tires up front. I said, now I'm going to do a couple burnouts, and then we're going to go from there. So he's like, sounds good. So I got up there, did a couple burnouts. Everything was great. Backed the truck up, and he goes, hey, starting second.
But this was the finals. That was the finals.
So I'm like, all right, I'll start in second this time. But when I started in second, the truck lifted the wheels and carried it to the cars Right about the time that I got to the cars, it came down, and then the front wheels hit the car, and it set me up, and I won the finals with the back tires crossing the finish line. The top of the cage that holds the top of the body hit the last car and brought it down, but then it hit the chassis, hit the ground, and it bent it in 1.5 inches over to the side, 5 inches, I think, and up like 6 inches. So, park the truck. Mike Wales comes over and says, I think we can pull that around with some ratchet straps and get it back where it's at. Me and Lonnie laughed and said, yep, take him we can. So we worked on it for a little bit, and then Mike left to go back to the hotel, and me and Lonnie looked at each other and said, why don't we just take the 4-link bars and run them over and push the rear end over so the truck would be doglegging the whole time we're racing.
But this was Friday night. We still had Saturday and Sunday show to do.
Yeah.
So I wound up winning all the races and freestyle with the truck all jacked up, all the rear end pushed aside, and
so
went down to Patrick's, and he cut the back half off and redid it, and he said, next time it's going to hurt you and not the truck.
So after that, we got a bunch of crap from a lot of the other drivers and stuff, at the end of the deal, and they're like, you guys didn't tear enough stuff up, and we're like, I thought the name of the game was to win racing, win freestyle, load up, not tearing anything up. So I actually got a call the next year from Bob Trent at Bigfoot, and he said, I understand you weren't real excited about working for those guys, and I'm like, they were good to me, but the trucks weren't what I expected. I'm not going back. I think he went back for another few years, but so Bob offered me a ride again first quarter in number 11, and he's like, I know you got a business to run, so he said you don't have to do anything but just show up, get in the rig when it's time to go. You don't even have to drive the rig.
Wow.
Just ride.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we get back, you go back to work. We'll take care of the truck and everything. And that was gravy. That was a lot of fun.
That's like a dream job.
That was a lot of fun. And
but again, they weren't tearing trucks up.
Yeah, we weren't tearing trucks up, and we were having a good time. And the last event that I did, Lurch was my crewmate.
Yeah, and we lost him a couple years ago. He was such a good guy, but yeah,
he was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
he was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I met him years ago, and I never forget that he always remembered my name, and it always impressed me because I didn't think that, I always looked at him as up here.
Yeah.
And I thought, and then we.
Well, everyone looked at him as up here because the guy was like 7'3".
He was a big guy, but I would run across him at the SEMA show or something, and he would always call me out by name, and it would always impress me because I always thought, wow, I can't believe this guy even knows who I am.
Right.
But super nice guy.
He was a great guy.
Yeah.
Great guy.
Yeah.
We all miss him.
He was one of the best guys at Bigfoot at the time, really. I mean, it didn't matter if he was a crew guy or if you were their top-notch driver. He treated everyone the same.
Yeah.
Which you can't say that for all the guys at Bigfoot.
No.
Not all of them was that way.
Well, you can't say that for
anyone.
A lot of guys in the monster truck industry.
Exactly.
A lot of guys, they only, if you're in a certain caliber, they'll talk to you. But well, hopefully you guys had as much fun as I had today. These guys are building awesome Mustangs. Tell us a little bit about the parts that you're making, because you're making really cool chassis parts to convert trucks and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, so we've been building aftermarket suspension products for vintage Mustangs and 05 to 14 Mustangs for quite a few years. About 5 years ago, we got into the F100 market. So Mustang stuff, we do a strut conversion for the vintage Mustangs, all bolt-in. We do a bolt-in rack and pinion system. We do a bolt-in 3-link with a Watts for the rear suspension. That stuff all has been working for us super well. We do a lot of pro touring builds. All of our stuff is track proven. We do 15, 20 events a year, and they'll usually have either autocross or track day at our road course. So we beat the snot out of our stuff. We figure if we can't tear it up, or if we do tear it up, we find a weak point and fix that. Like I said, about 5 years ago, I was building a F100 for myself just because I'd always wanted one. And I kind of saw the Crown Vic swap thing on a TV show, and I thought, that's kind of cool. So ended up doing that, and I took the 3-link from our Mustang and basically made a version for the trucks, and it works super well in the truck because the torque arm comes all the way up to the tail shaft of transmission, the middle of the cab. So it's picking up where the weight of the truck is and applying that to the back tires. Now the fact that the bed is light has no effect on the truck anymore, so it'll hook and go. So we offer Crown Vic installation kits that are, I think, the best on the market. That's full color directions with measurements. We give you the threaded tubes just like Ford built in the Crown Vics. We give you brand new one-time use Ford hardware. Everything you need to install that. Like I said, we have the 3-link kits for short beds right now. We're probably within the year we'll have that kit as well for the long beds. We're covering from 53 to 79 currently on the trucks. We also have Coyote motor mounts, or my motor engine mounts to go to the Crown Vic. And the truck market's just exploding right now, so we're real excited about that.
All right, tell us the name and how they get a hold of you.
Gateway Classic Mustang, Gateway Performance Suspension.
All of it's online. We're on Facebook, Instagram. I think on the online stuff, it would be all under Gateway Mustang. Kind of drop the classic part of it. But yeah, it's everything's online, or you can call us. We're on the interweb everywhere.
All right, all right. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe and share. We'll catch you on the next one.